Peace and blessings is real. First and foremost, I want to take this time and give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh through his only begotten Son, Yahushua, for allowing this word to come out. And I hope you sincere brothers and sisters is edified by this word. And the name of the lesson is called Man Loses His Wits Over a Woman and Destroy His Household in the Process. Let me say it again, man. Man loses his wits over a woman and destroy his household in the process. In this word, man, we're going to deal with the tragedy of domestic violence. This is a pretty sensitive word, so I'm trying to be careful how I title this because for whatever reason, YouTube, they frown on particular titles, man, even though we're speaking strictly what the Bible says. YouTube don't necessarily agree with that. So you're kind of in a stuck, you're kind of in a stuck 22 situation here. But hopefully this video is able to be uploaded because for you young men out here, you Israelite brothers out here, you really need to understand the importance of domestic violence and the consequences that follows domestic violence. Domestic violence is very serious, man. And I think when O.J. Simpson was involved with the in 1994 with his ex-wife and Ron Goldman, I believe. I think at that time or prior to that time, domestic violence wasn't really looked at as something serious. But after the O.J. situation, domestic violence became more of an importance pertaining to protecting the woman or the abused spouse, because you have some women that does domestic violence as well, but for the most part, it's usually the man, which is the aggressor in these domestic situations. And here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, man, a man loses his wits over a woman and destroy his household in the process, man. And what I want to just speak on, I'm not going to go into detail and pertaining to this tragedy, but 2 days ago here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a 43-year-old man by the name of Christopher Stokes allegedly took out his whole family for the most part, man. And it appears that he was, it was an on-again, off-again relationship with this woman. And she was looking to exit the situation, exit the relationship. And that was not something that he was interested in doing. And in the process, he lost his wits, man. We're going to speak about what it means and what it's like to lose your wits, especially over a woman, man. But that's exactly what happened here. And we're going to speak about it in 1 Esdras chapter 4, verse 26 in the Apocrypha. It says, "Yea, many there be that have run out of their wits for women and become servants for their sakes." You see that? So the main thing I want to focus on is running out of their wits for women, because that's exactly what happened with Christopher Stokes. Allegedly, he ran out of his wits for this woman. In other words, when it came to his mental sharpness, when it came to his inventiveness, when it came to having keen intelligence, dealing with a heated situation, he lacked it. He lacked his wit. his power of intelligence, his ability to be observant, to have a keen perception. His mental faculties failed him in this time. Okay, this individual pretty much, man, lost his marbles, man, in this situation, man. So there's definitely some type of mental illness. Something mentally did not connect during this dispute with his woman, man, and he ended up blacking out and taking out the whole family. I believe it was 5 total. The woman, 2 of her kids, or 3 of her kids, and 2 relatives of his. I think the only surviving was a little baby, which was unharmed. But this is all in result of a man running out his wits for a woman, man. And it centers around domestic abuse, man, domestic violence, and it's a very, very, very serious situations that's happening all over the world. But here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it's really been happening, man. And this is what you see on the screen is the scene of this situation on 12th and Locust, man. Tragedy, tragedy, tragedy situation. And when it comes to domestic violence, all right, the police must arrest and take someone in custody if they have reasonable grounds to believe the defendant has committed domestic abuse against a spouse or a girlfriend or a person who lives with this individual or whom have children. Okay, and what ended up happening is continued abuse. More than likely, is going to continue to happen, and usually there is some type of evidence of physical injury to the victim. And so when this happened, man, a person has to get some help. A person has to go to jail and then get some help. Because for those who don't understand what domestic violence is, it's when you commit abuse by way of inflicting pain or injury to your spouse, or sexually assaulting your spouse is considered domestic violence. Committing a physical act that caused the victim to fear, pain, injury, or sexual assault is considered domestic violence, man. And once you are arrested for that, you cannot be released until you post bail or be seen by a judge, man. You see? And then what usually happens when you are released, there's a thing called a restraining order, okay, or a protective order. And usually the court will require this, where you don't have contact and you stay away from that person for a particular amount of time. So when you commit domestic violence, or restraining order usually going to come after that. And not only that, there's a no contact requirement. And that's the first thing you deal with. If in the state of Wisconsin, unless the victim signs a written waiver, a defendant is arrested for domestic abuse, must stay away from the victim residence and not contact her for 72 hours after the arrest. And I can tell you, man, I went through this a couple years ago, and I'll tell you something that's crazy, man. My wife actually waived, the no contact order, and the state still picked it up. She waived it, and they still picked it up and said, nope, you can't go there for 72 hours. And then on top of that, they said that you can't have no contact. You cannot have no contact order with her, period, during this time, man. So, domestic violence, I think for you brothers out here, you have to really be careful, man, and really work on yourself. You're speaking from someone that was caught up in domestic violence, man. And I went to jail for a day and a half. And then I end up, getting a year and a half probation, which I should be done in June 6th of this year for an unfortunate situation, man. And ever since then, I've done everything necessary to never ever put myself in that situation. And a lot of that has to do with, you got to deal with your anger management issues. You have to deal with how you deal with dispute with your woman. If your woman don't want to be with you no more, and that wasn't my case, but this was the case of Christopher Stokes, man, that lost his wits and blacked out and took out his whole family. His situation allegedly is the woman didn't really want to be with him no more, and she wanted to move on. And for whatever reason, that didn't take place, man. So I think that we as black men, man, we really have to, so-called black men, we have to be very careful, man, when we dealing with our queens. Do women do things to provoke us? I won't necessarily say they provoke us. I'll just say that when you have a dispute with your woman, man, just walk away if you can. Cool off. Let cooler heads prevail. Come back, hour or two, sit down, and let's just try again and try to resolve whatever dispute it is. If it's a situation where the woman don't want to be with you no more, you don't resort to violence where you kill her and the kids, man. Because in the end, you sitting in jail for the rest of your life, and you killed the woman that you loved and then inflicted her kids in the process. That's what I mean when I say he lost his wits, man. It's an unfortunate situation, but obviously, man, a lot of people that's watching this video would say, oh, I would never do something like that. Yeah, it's easy to say that, but then when you get in a situation, you don't really know what you're going to do, man. So you got to really, work on your mental, man. Work on your emotions, work on your anger, work on all of that type of stuff, man, because the most harmful, most peaceful person in the world could literally black out. You know what I'm saying? So it's an unfortunate situation, man. But a lot of this centers around domestic violence, man, allegedly. And so you brothers in particular, man, when these sisters get reckless and disrespectful, shut down completely, man. And after a while, they'll cool down and realize they was wrong. They might not apologize, but there's a way a woman to show you that she's no longer mad or she went too far. And then y'all work out whatever the situation is, man, and keep the peace, man. But anytime it's a domestic situation, man, it's usually the man abusing his spouse, man, over frustration of whatever's going on. And here in Wisconsin, they really don't play that domestic violence game, especially for a so-called Jake. They ain't going, man. So I've been there. I know what it's about. And I'm going to tell you, man, anybody that's watching this video, if you have a woman and y'all get into it, just leave the house, man. Shut down completely. Do whatever you got to do. Because if you continue to engage in arguing with this woman, eventually your emotions going to get the best of you, and you going to do something that you regret, man. Hopefully you won't go as far as this Christopher Stokes did, but like I said, maybe it's some other mental issues that was going on there on top of the domestic violence that was not being addressed, man. But again, man, what's the name of the word? The name of this lesson again is man loses his wits over a woman and destroy his household in the process, man. I hope you sincere brothers and sisters was edified by this word, and we give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh through his only begotten son, Yahushua, for allowing this word to come out, man. Shalom.